Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayani Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anapetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virakatara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedu Stang Sarvabhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Vedantasto Yabhadrani Vedunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptastakama Ditarangamadhe Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Uh-oh. Huh. That's strange. Oh. Okay. There. All right. Sorry about that. So, where's my book? All right, so let me just do a quick. I'm just going to quickly read the translations from the last verses that we read yesterday. The conversation between Manu and Kardama. Vidura said, "The lion of Swayambhuva Manu was most esteemed. O worshipful sage, I beg you, please give me account of this race, whose progeny multiplied through sexual intercourse." The two great sons of Swayambhuva Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, ruled the world, consisting of 7 islands, just according to religious principles. O holy Brahman, O sinless one, you have spoken of his daughter, known by the name Devahuti, as the wife of the sage Kardama, the lord of created beings. How many offspring did that great yogi beget through How many offspring did that great yogi beget through the princess, who was endowed with eightfold protection and yoga principles? Oh, pray, tell me this, for I am eager to hear it. O holy sage, tell me how the worshipful Ruchi and Daksha, the son of Brahma, generated children after securing as their wives the other two daughters of Swayambhuva Manu. The great sage Maitreya replied, commanded by Lord Brahma to beget children in the worlds, the worshipful Kardama Muni practiced penance on the bank of the river Saraswati for a period of 10,000 years. During that period of penance, the sage Kardama, by worship through devotional service and trance, propitiated the personality of Godhead, who is the quick bestower of all blessings upon those who flee to him for protection. Then, in the Satya Yuga, the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased, showed himself to that Kardama Muni and displayed his transcendental form, which can be understood only through the Vedas. Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is free from the material contamination in his eternal form, effulgent like the sun, wearing a garland of white lotuses and water lilies. The Lord is clad in spotless yellow silk, and his lotus face was fringed with slick, dark locks of curly hair. Adorned with a crown and earrings, he held his characteristic conch, disc, and mace in three of his hands, and a white lily in the fourth. He glanced about in a happy, smiling mood, whose sight captivates the hearts of all devotees. A golden streak on his chest, the famous Kaustuba gem suspended from his neck, he stood in the air with his lotus feet placed on the shoulders of Garuda. When Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. His heart naturally full of love of God, with folded hands he satisfied the Lord with prayers. Rishiruvacha Jushtam Batadyakila Satvarashe Sansedamakshnos Tavadarshanamna Yadarshanam Janmabhiridya Sarbir Ashasate Yogino Ruda Yoga. The great sage Kardama said, O worshipful Lord, my power of sight is now fulfilled, having attained the greatest perfection of the sight of you, who are the reservoir of all existences. Through many successive births of deep meditation, advanced yogis aspire to see your transcendental form. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described here as the reservoir of all good qualities and all pleasure. Unless one is situated in the mode of goodness, there is no real pleasure. When, therefore, one's body, mind, and activities are situated in the service of the Lord, one is on the highest perfectional stage of goodness. Kardama Muni says, Your Lordship is the reservoir of all that can be understood by the nomenclature of goodness, and by experiencing you face to face, eye to eye, the perfection of sight has now been attained. These statements are the pure devotional situation for a devotee. The perfection of the senses is to engage in the service of the Lord. The sense of sight, when engaged in seeing the beauty of the Lord, is perfected. The power to hear, when engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, is perfected. The power to taste, when one enjoys by eating prasad, is perfected. When all the senses engage in relationship with the personality of Godhead, one's perfection is technically called bhakti yoga, which entails detaching the senses from material indulgence and attaching them to the service of the Lord. When one is freed from all designated conditional life and fully engages in the service of the Lord, one's service is called bhakti yoga. Kardama Muni admits that seeing the Lord personally in bhakti yoga is the perfection of sight. The exalted perfection of seeing the Lord is not exaggerated by Kardama Muni. He gives evidence that those who are actually elevated in yoga aspire in life after life to see this form of the personality of Godhead. He was not a fictitious yogi. Those who are actually on the advanced path aspire only to see the eternal form of the Lord. Haribo Anjali Didi. Ye mayayate hatame dasastat padaravindam bhavasindu potam upasate kamalavayate sham rasisha kaman niraye piyesyu. Your lotus feet are the true vessel to take one across the ocean of mundane nescience. Only persons deprived of their intelligence by the spell of the deluding energy will worship those feet with a view to attain the trivial and momentary pleasures of the senses, which even persons rotting in hell can attain. However, O my Lord, you are so kind that you bestow mercy even upon them. Purport. One second. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, there are two kinds of devotees, those who desire material pleasures and those who desire nothing but the service of the Lord. Material pleasures can be attained even by hogs and dogs, whose condition of life is hellish. The hog also eats, sleeps, enjoys sex life to the full extent, and it is also very much satisfied with such hellish enjoyment of material existence. Modern yogis advise that because one has senses, one must enjoy to the fullest extent like cats and dogs, yet one can go on and practice yoga. This is condemned here by Kardama Muni. He says that such material pleasures are available for cats and dogs in a hellish condition. The Lord is so kind that if so-called yogis are satisfied by hellish pleasures, he can give them facilities to attain all the material pleasures they desire, but they cannot attain the perfectional stage attained by Kardama Muni. Hellish and demoniac persons do not actually know what is the ultimate attainment in perfection, and therefore they think that sense gratification is the highest goal of life. They advise that one can satisfy the senses and at the same time, by reciting some mantra and by some practice, can cheaply aspire for perfection. Such persons are described here as Hatha Medhasa, which means those whose brains are spoiled. They aspire for material enjoyment by perfection of yoga or meditation. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated by the Lord that the intelligence of those who worship the demigods has been spoiled. Similarly, here too it is stated by Kardama Muni that one who aspires after material enjoyment by practice of yoga has spoiled his brain substance and is fool number one. Actually, the intelligent practitioner of yoga should aspire for nothing else but to cross over the ocean of nescience by worshiping the personality of Godhead and to see the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord is so kind, however, that even today, persons whose brain substance is spoiled are given the benediction to become cats, dogs, or hogs and enjoy material happiness from sex life and sense gratification. The Lord confirms this benediction in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever a person aspires to receive from me, I offer him as he desires. Tata sachaham parivodukaman samanashilam grihamedadhenum upeyivan mulam asheshamulam durashaya kama dugham grihasya. Therefore, desiring to marry a girl of like disposition, who may prove to be a veritable cow of plenty in my married life, to satisfy my lustful desire, I too have sought the shelter of your lotus feet, which are the source of everything, for you are like a desire tree. Purport: in spite of his condemning persons who approach the Lord for material advantages, Kardama Muni expressed his material inability and desire before the Lord by saying, "Although I know that nothing material should be asked from you, I nevertheless desire to marry a girl of like disposition. The phrase like disposition is very significant. Formerly, boys and girls of similar dispositions were married. The similar natures of the boy and girl were united in order to make them happy. Not more than 25 years ago, and perhaps it is still current, parents in India used to consult the horoscope of the boy and girl to see whether there would be a factual union in their psychological conditions. These considerations are very important. Nowadays, marriage takes place without such consultation, and therefore, soon after the marriage, there is divorce, said that like a New Yorker. There is divorce and separation. Formerly, husband and wife used to live together peacefully throughout their whole lives. But nowadays, it is a very difficult task. Kardama Muni wanted to have a wife of like disposition because a wife is necessary to assist in spiritual and material advancement. It is said that a wife yields the fulfillment of all desires in religion, economic development, and sense gratification. If one has a nice wife, he is to be considered a most fortunate man. In astrology, a man is considered fortunate who has great wealth, very good sons, or a very good wife. Of these three, one who has a very good wife is considered the most fortunate. Before marrying, one should select a wife of like disposition and not be enamored by so-called beauty or other attractive features for sense gratification. In the Bhāgavatam 12th canto, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, marriage will be based on the consideration of sex life. As soon as there is deficiency in sex life, the question of divorce will arise. Kardama Muni could have asked for his benediction from Uma, for it is recommended in the scriptures that if anyone wants a good wife, he should worship Uma. But he preferred to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead because it is recommended in the Bhāgavatam that everyone, whether he is full of desires, has no desire, or desires liberation, should worship the Supreme Lord. Of these three classes of men, one tries to be happy by fulfillment of material desires. Another wants to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. And another, the perfect man, is a devotee. He does not want anything in return from the personality of Godhead. He only wants to render transcendental loving service. In any case, everyone should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he will fulfill everyone's desire. The advantage of worshiping the Supreme Person is that even if one has desires for material enjoyment, if he worships Krishna, he will gradually become a pure devotee and have no more material hankering. Prajapateste vachasa dishatantya loka kilayam kamahatanupata aham cha lokanugato bahami balem cha shukla nimishayatubhyam. O my Lord, you are the master and leader of all living entities. Under your direction, all conditioned souls, as if bound by a rope, are constantly engaged in satisfying their desires. Following them, O embodiment of religion, I also bear oblations for you, who are eternal time. Purport. In the Katha Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Lord is the leader of all living entities. He is their sustainer and the awarder of all their necessities and desires. No living entity is independent. All are dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Vedic instruction is that one should enjoy life under the direction of the Supreme Leader, the personality of Godhead. Vedic literatures like Ishupanishad direct that since everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not encroach upon another's property, but should enjoy one's individual allotment. The best program for every living entity is to take direction from the Supreme Lord and enjoy material or spiritual life. A question may be raised. Since Kardama Muni was advanced in spiritual life, why then did he not ask the Lord for liberation? Why did he want to enjoy material life in spite of his personally seeing and experiencing the Supreme Lord? The answer is that not everyone is competent to be liberated from material bondage. It is everyone's duty, therefore, to enjoy according to his present position, but under the direction of the Lord or the Vedas. Sorry, I went to sleep at 2 o'clock this morning. The Vedas are considered to be the direct words of the Lord. The Lord gives us the opportunity to enjoy material life we want, and at the same time, he gives directions for the modes and processes of abiding by the Vedas, so that gradually one may be elevated to liberation from material bondage. The conditioned souls who have come to the material world to fulfill their desires to lord it over the material nature are bound by the laws of nature. The best course is to abide by the Vedic rules. That will help one to be gradually elevated to liberation. Kardama Muni addresses the Lord as Shuka, which means the leader of religion. One who is pious should follow the rules of religion, for such rules are prescribed by the Lord himself. No one can manufacture or concoct a religion. Religion refers to the injunctions or laws of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that religion means to surrender unto him. Therefore, one should follow the Vedic regulations and surrender unto the Supreme Lord, because that is the ultimate goal of perfection in human life. One should live a life of piety, follow the religious rules and regulations, marry and live peacefully for the elevation to the higher status of spiritual realization. Lokangscha lokanugatam pasumcha hitva shitaste charanaktapatram parasparam tvad gunavada sindhu piyusha niryapita deha dharma. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussion with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. Purport. After describing the necessity of married life, Kardama Muni asserts that marriage and other social affairs are stereotyped regulations for persons who are addicted to material sense enjoyment. So I just want to glance at this translation again. Okay, sorry. The principles of animal life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are actually necessities of the body. But those who engage in transcendental Krishna consciousness, giving up all the stereotyped activities of this material world, are freed from social conventions. Conditioned souls are under the spell of material energy, or eternal time, past, present, and future. But as soon as one engages in Krishna consciousness, he transcends the limits of past and present and becomes situated in the eternal activities of the soul. One has to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions in order to enjoy material life. But those who have taken to the devotional service of the Lord are not afraid of the regulations of this material world. Such devotees do not care for the conventions of material activities. They boldly take to that shelter, which is like an umbrella against the sun of repeated birth and death. Constant transmigration of the soul from one body to another is the cause of suffering in material existence. This conditional life in material existence is called samsara. One may perform good work and take his birth in a very nice material condition, but the process under which birth and death take place is like a terrible fire. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his prayer to the spiritual master, has described this. Samsara, at the repetition of birth and death, is compared to a forest fire. A forest fire takes place automatically, without anyone's endeavor, by the friction of dried wood, and no fire department or sympathetic person can extinguish it. The raging forest fire can be extinguished only when there is a constant downpour of water from a cloud. The cloud is compared to the mercy of the spiritual master. Samsara dava nalalita loka. By the grace of the spiritual master, the cloud of mercy, the karunya guna gunatvam, The spiritual master, the cloud of mercy of the personality of Godhead is brought in, and then only when the rains of Krishna consciousness fall can the fire of material existence be extinguished. What is the word for extinguished? Samsardava nalalita loka pranaya karuna. It actually doesn't say the word extinguished in the Sanskrit there. Interesting. Okay, this is also explained here. In order to find freedom from the stereotyped conditional life of material existence, one has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not in the manner in which the impersonalists One has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, but not in the manner in which the impersonalists indulge, but in devotional service, chanting and hearing of the activities of the Lord. Only then can one be freed from the actions and reactions of material existence. It is recommended here that one should give up the conditional life of this material world and the association of so-called civilized human beings, who are simply following in a polished way the same stereotyped principles of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord is described here as Twar Guna Vadu Siddhu. Only by drinking the nectar of chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord can one forget the intoxication of material existence. Nate Jaraksha Brahmirayuresham Trayodashara Trishatam Shashti Parva Shanim Nananta Chariyat Trinabhi Karalash Sroto Jagad Achitya Davat. Your wheel, which has 3 naves, rotates around the axis of the imperishable Brahma. It has 13 spokes, 360 joints, 6 rims, and numberless leaves carved upon it. Though its revolution cut short the lifespan of the entire creation, this wheel of tremendous velocity cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees of the Lord. Purport. The time factor cannot affect the lifespan of the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that a little execution of devotional service saves one from the greatest danger. The greatest danger is transmigration of the soul from one body to another. And only devotional service to the Lord can stop this process. It is stated in the Vedic literatures, Harim vina nasritam taranti. Without the mercy of the Lord, one cannot stop the cycle of birth and death. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that only by understanding the transcendental nature of the Lord and his activities, his appearance and disappearance, can one stop the cycle of death and go back to him. The time factor is divided into many fractions of moments, hours, months, years, periods, seasons, etc. All the divisions in this verse are determined according to the astronomical calculations of Vedic literature. There are 6 seasons called ritus, and there is the period of 4 months called chaturmasya. 3 periods of 4 months complete 1 year. According to Vedic astronomical calculations, there are 13 months. The 13th month is called Adimas, or Malamas, and is added every 3rd year. The time factor, however, cannot touch the lifespan of the devotees. In another verse, it is stated that when the sun rises and sets, it takes away the life of all living entities, but it cannot take away the life of those who are engaged in devotional service. Time is compared here to a big wheel, which has 360 joints, 6 rims in the shape of seasons, and numberless leaves in the shape of moments. It rotates on the eternal existence in Brahman. Eka swayam sam jagata sasrikshaya dvitiyayatman adiyogamayaya srija sada pasi punar grashishyase yatornanabhir bhagavan swashaktivi. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O Personality of Godhead, Desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy called Yoga Maya. Just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again winds it up. Purport. In this verse, two important words nullify the impersonalist theory that everything is God. Here, Kardama says, O personality of Godhead, you are alone, but you have various energies. The example of the spider is very significant also. The spider is an individual living entity, and by its energy, it creates a cobweb and plays on it. And whenever it likes, it winds up the cobweb, thus ending the play. When the cobweb is manufactured by the saliva of the spider does not become impersonal. Similarly, the creation and manifestation of the material or spiritual energy does not render the creator impersonal. Here, the very prayer suggests that God is sentient and can hear the prayers and fulfill the desire of the devotee. Therefore, he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the form of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Naitarbhatadisha padantavepsitam yanmayaya nastanushe bhuta shukshmam anugrahaya svapi yarhimayaya lasattu lasya bhagavan vilakshita. My dear Lord, although it is not your desire, you manifest this creation of gross and subtle elements just for our sensual satisfaction. Let your causeless mercy be upon us, for you have appeared before us in your eternal form, adorned with a splendid wreath of tulsi leaves. Purport. It is clearly stated here that the material world is not created by the personal will of the Supreme Lord. It is created by his external energy because the living entities want to enjoy it. This material world is not created for those who do not want to enjoy sense gratification, who constantly remain in transcendental loving service and who are eternally Krishna conscious. For them, the spiritual world is eternally existing, and they enjoy there. Elsewhere in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, it is stated that for those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this material world is useless. Because this material world is full of danger at every step, it is not meant for the devotees, but for living entities who want to lord it over the material energy at their own risk. Krishna is so kind that he allows the sense-enjoying living entities a separate world created by him to enjoy as they like. Yet at the same time, he appears in his personal form. The Lord unwillingly creates this material world, but he descends in his personal form or sends one of his reliable sons or a servant, or a reliable author like Vyasadeva to give instruction. He himself also instructs in the speeches of Bhagavad Gita. This propaganda work goes on side by side with the creation to convince the misguided living entities who are rotting in this material world to come back to him and surrender unto him. Therefore, the last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita is this: give up all your manufactured engagements in the material world and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Haribo Revati Didi and Mitra Vrinda Didi. Tangtuana Putyo Parata Kriyartam Swamayaya Vartita Lokatantram Namam Yad Bhikshnam Naminiyat Pada Sarojam Alpi Yasikama Varsham. I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant. To give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you, you have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. Purport. Everyone, therefore, whether he desires material enjoyment, liberation, or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, should engage himself, offering obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, because the Lord can award everyone his desired benediction. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord affirms, Ye yata mam prapadyante. Anyone who desires to be a successful enjoyer in this material world is awarded that benediction by the Lord. Anyone who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world is given liberation by the Lord. And anyone who desires to constantly engage in his service in full Krishna consciousness is awarded that benediction by the Lord. For material enjoyment, he has prescribed so many ritualistic sacrificial performances in the Vedas, and thus people may take advantage of those instructions and enjoy material life in higher planets or in a noble aristocratic family. These processes are mentioned in the Vedas, and one can take advantage of them. It is similar with those who want to be liberated from this material world. Unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world, he cannot aspire for liberation. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. Vedanta Sutra says, therefore, Tato Brahma Jigyasa. Those who have given up the attempt to be happy in this material world can inquire about the absolute truth. For those who want to know the absolute truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available, as is Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, the actual explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Since Bhagavad Gita is also Vedanta Sutra, by understanding Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Vedanta Sutra, or Bhagavad Gita, one can obtain real knowledge. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahma, or Krishna consciousness, he is not only liberated, but situated in his spiritual life. Similarly, for those who want to lord it over material nature, there are so many departments of material enjoyment. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. The conclusion is that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any benediction. The word Kamavarsham is very significant, for it indicates that if he satisfies the desire of anyone who approaches, it indicates that he satisfies the desire of anyone who approaches him. But one who sincerely loves Krishna, and yet wants material enjoyment, is in perplexity. Krishna, being very kind towards him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so he gradually forgets the hallucination. What's that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita? Ami Vigya something tare Vishay Kenit Devo. Swacharanamrita. He says that, I can't remember the verse right now, but he says that the living entities, my devotees who have material desires, they may worship me for material things. But why should I give them material enjoyment? But I'm not foolish. I know. And so why should I give them material enjoyment? Instead, I'll give them the nectar of my lotus feet, by which they will give up all their material desires. That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Rishiruvacha ityavyalikam pranuto janabhas tamabhavashe vachasamritena suparna paksho parirochamana premasmito dikshana vibramarbhu. Maitreya resumed, sincerely extolled in these words, Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection. Remember, we're in a conversation of Maitreya with Vidura, and he's telling the story about Kardama. Purport. The word Vachasamritena is significant. When the Lord speaks, he speaks from the transcendental world. He does not speak from the material world. Since he is transcendental, his speech is also transcendental, as is his activity. Everything in relation to him is transcendental. The word Amrita refers to one who does not meet with death. Means not, and Mrita means death, so not dying, undying. The words and activities of the Lord are deathless. Therefore, they are not manufactured of this material world. The sound of this material world is that of the sound of this material world and that of the spiritual world are completely different. The sound of the spiritual world is nectarian and eternal, whereas the sound of the material world is hackneyed and subject to end. The sound of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, everlastingly increases the enthusiasm of the chanter. If one repeats monotonous material words, he will feel exhausted. But if he chants Hare Krishna 24 hours a day, he will never feel exhausted. Rather, he'll feel encouraged to continue chanting more and more. That's true, isn't it? When the Lord replied to the sage Kardama, the word Vajasamritena is specifically mentioned, since he spoke from the transcendental world. He replied in transcendental words, and when he spoke, his eyebrows moved with great affection. When a devotee praises the glories of the Lord is very satisfied, and he bestows his transcendental benediction upon the devotee without reservation, because he is always causelessly merciful toward his devotee. Oops, 1 second, there's comments. Revati is asking, is Sanskrit a spiritual language? Does Krishna speak in Goloka Vrindavan? I can't give the best answer for this. If anybody else has a better answer, let me know. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Sanskrit is a transcendental language. But I think that language in the spiritual world is beyond anything that's in this material world. So I don't think the exact language that is spoken there is here. This is just my speculation. But yeah, I don't think the exact language that they speak in the spiritual world is here. I don't know. But yeah, I do think it's a spiritual language. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. But yeah, this is just me also. I just think that that's not like authoritative what I just said. Viditva tava chaityame puraiva samayojitat yadartam atmaniyamais tvayaivaham samarchita. The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that for which you have worshipped me, well through your mental and sensory discipline. Purport. Yeah, because also like all these scriptures written in Sanskrit. So, but then the Sanskrit of this world might be different from the Sanskrit of might be different than the Sanskrit of the heavenly planets. I don't know. Who knows? And the Sanskrit of the I really can't say anything authoritative on this. I have heard though that in the heavenly planets that they have even a different Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Has anybody else heard that? There's like a different Śrīmad Bhāgavatam for this material world. Sorry, of course this is all material world, but for this earth, and there's a different Śrīmad Bhāgavatam in the heavenly planets is even larger. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature is situated in everyone's heart. He knows, therefore, the past, present, and future of every individual person, as well as his desires, activities, and everything about him. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that he is seated in the heart as a witness. The personality of Godhead knew the heart's desire of Kardama Muni, and he had already arranged for the fulfillment of his desires. He never disappoints a sincere devotee, regardless of what he wants, but he never allows anything which will be detrimental to the individual's devotional service. Navai jatu mrishaiva syat prajadyaksha mararhanam bhavar videshvatitaram mai sangribhitatmanam. The Lord continued, "My dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration." Purport. Even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. Those engaged in his service are called sakam and akam. Sakam with desire and akam without desire. Those who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with desires for material enjoyment are called sakam. And those devotees who have no material desires for sense gratification, but serve the Lord out of spontaneous love for him, are called akam. Sakam devotees are divided into 4 classes: those in distress, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise. Someone worships the Supreme Lord because of bodily or mental distress. Someone else worships the Supreme Lord because he is in need of money. Someone else worships the Lord out of inquisitiveness to know him as he is. And someone else wants to know the Lord as a philosopher can know him, by the research work of his wisdom. There is no frustration for any of these 4 classes of men. Each is endowed with the desired result of his worship. Indira Mataji says, yes, differences are there, but Sanskrit is a spiritual language. Yes. Awesome. Prajapati Sutta Samran Manur Vikyata Mangala Brahmavartam Yodhishtivasan Shasti Saptarnabam Mahim. How are we doing on time? 7:58. Ooh, my God, we're getting close. Okay, the Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who is well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavarta and rules over the earth with its 7 oceans. Purport. Sometimes it is stated that Brahmavarta is part of Kurukshetra, or that Kurukshetra itself is situated in Brahmavarta, because the demigods are recommended to perform spiritual ritualistic performances in Kurukshetra. But in others' opinion, Brahmavarta is a place in Brahmaloka, where Swayambhuva ruled. There are many places on the surface of this earth, which are known in the higher planetary systems. We have places on this planet like Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, but they are also eternally situated in Krishnaloka. There are many similar names on the surface of the earth, and it may be that in the Bohr age, Swayambhuva Manu ruled this planet, as stated here. The word Mangala is significant. Mangala means one who is elevated in every respect in the opulences of religious performances, ruling power, cleanliness, and all other good qualities. Vikyata means celebrated. Swayambhuva Manu was celebrated for all good qualities and opulences. Sacheha Vipra Rajarshir Maheshya Shatarupaya Ayasyati Didrikshustvam Parashva Dharmako Vida. The day after tomorrow, O Brahman, that celebrated emperor who is expert in religious activities will come here with his queen, Shatarupa, wishing to see you. The day after tomorrow, very specific. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's just finish this up. Atmajan asitat pangim vaya shila gunan vitan rigayantem patem dasyat Tanurupayate Prabhu. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage, and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughters as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama Muni to offer their daughter, because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. This is the duty of parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband. For when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. Okay, so I said that we were going to read, like I wrote in our thing that we're going to read to verse 30, but I think we'll just stop at verse 28. I'll just read the translations, though, just so that we finish at least this point. That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of. Sorry. That princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long. When I get nervous, I can't read. So it will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. With your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain me. Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization, giving assurance of safety to all. Giving assurance of safety to all, you will perceive your own self as well as all the universes in me, and myself in you. Oh, that's a long purport. O great sage, I shall manifest my own plenary portion through your wife, Devahuti, along with your 9 daughters, and I shall instruct her in the system of philosophy that deals with the ultimate principles or categories. And then Maitreya went on. Thus, having spoken to Kardama Muni, the Lord, who reveals himself only when the senses are in Krishna consciousness, departed from that lake called Bindu Surova, which is encircled by the river Saraswati. Okay, so we'll be reading from verse 28 on tomorrow. I just wanted to finish that part though, otherwise, yeah. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nikhil Pravishta Mishnipad Ashtatara Shata Shri Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudeva ki Jai. Nikhil Pravishta Mishnipad Ashtatara Shata Shri Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nikhil Pravishta Mishnipad Ashtatara Shata Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Shishmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashita Shishmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Srila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nugauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Pata Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Pata Dashraghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaur Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radhakund Shamakund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Paridevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams. See you all tomorrow. Thanks for reading with me. Hari Bol.